Hello, my friendos! So welcome back to the fourth installment of my 5-part financial tracker series. So this one will focus on the budget tracker or salary breakdown that I've designed to suit my personal needs. So I hope you guys will find this useful in case you need a method that applies envelope budgeting for paychecks. I'm sure you already noticed that contrary to my previous trackers, this one is only placed on the left side of a spread. So I can explain this better on the last video of this 5-part series, but for now, I want to focus on the design and setup of this budget tracker. Okay, so to start off, if you guys are familiar with the different methods of budgeting, then this will likely be an easy tracker to follow, as I used one budgeting template as my basis. So the first type, I believe, would be a very popular one, is the 50-30-20 budgeting method, where certain percentages of one's salary or paycheck is allotted for an overarching purpose like savings, investment, or for spending. So most people opt for 20% savings, 30% investment, and 50% spending. A second one was actually influenced by great financial man Warren Buffett that applies the principle of saving or allotting an amount of the salary for savings first, and then opening the rest for spending. So the simple idea behind this principle is to prioritize savings over spending, which reverses the original practice of spend first and then save what's left. Okay, so just the reverse of that. So the idea is you save first and then you spend what's left. Okay, but the type I use as basis for this tracker is called the envelope budgeting method. So it's named as such with the imagery of having multiple envelopes. So one with a specific fund is essentially assigned to. So you essentially have different envelopes with funds as their purpose. So you place funds into each envelope, and the essence of it is that you do not transfer anything from one to another if a certain envelope has already been exhausted of its fund. So for example, if the envelope that I have for my actual spending has already been exhausted before my next paycheck, I am not allowed to take funds from the emergency fund envelope, for example. So I've quite a number of things happening on this page, so I just want to start with the actual setup. So we'll go through it in order from top to bottom, just so it's easy to follow. Okay, so at the very start, you'll see I have placed legends, which I will use to code or label certain funds by category. So I have five main categories which I work with, and I essentially distribute the envelopes with specific purposes under the appropriate category. So I have the essentials, security, goals, lifestyle, and allowance. So I plan to put this list of legends for every setup that I make, because I would like to avoid having to flip between the pages just to go back to where I've planted the legends. So right below the guide, I have placed date and salary or paycheck. And these apply for every time I receive a paycheck from work. This is actually my preferred system. Oftentimes we have a bi-monthly payment system, so 15/30. And that's actually my preference, but depending on the type of work, of course, that I have to do, or the type of office that I will join, I plan to adjust this depending on the necessity, of course. And finally, we have the actual table, which we'll be working with. So you'll see we have some columns here. I essentially start with the name of the fund. So this is very self-explanatory. Simply indicate the name of your fund. So emergency fund, or certain investment, or certain bill, etc. The amount stands for the amount, or essentially the amount from the salary or the paycheck, which we'll be placing here, and which will essentially be allocating for this particular fund. Okay. The single grid column, the single grid third column is for the category code. So this is just for the first letter of the 5 legends I've placed at the beginning. So E for essentials, S for security, you'll be placing them here depending on the category of the fund. The fourth column is labeled location. So I needed to add this because I have multiple bank accounts or storage areas and where essentially I put my fund allocations. So this is mainly to keep track of where each fund is located in. And if you want to use this tracker but don't find this column necessary, you may drop it altogether. I just find it very useful for me since I need to know where my funds are. And as you've seen in the previous videos, that's very important to me. And after these columns, I put in 3 columns on an overarching subheader entitled transferred. Okay, so once the amount has been transferred to the specific location, I will be placing a check mark on this single grid column again, and then the date when I made the transfer, okay, or when it was completed, especially if certain transfers have a certain number of days delaying. Okay, and finally, I have a column for notes in case of important remarks that might be relevant to include on my tracker. So these 3 mainly happen when the funds have been allocated from my payroll account to the actual accounts where I need to have them placed. Right? So just to give you an idea of the kinds of fund names I make use of. So under essentials, I would have all the bills listed so I can easily allot funds for them and not worry about not having enough to pay for them monthly. So I will also include important non-negotiable payments or expenses such as tithes as a believer. So if you remember from my previous video, the 4 bills that I've actually listed on those trackers, I will essentially be placing them under the essentials. So under security, I list down the insurance policies I am currently paying for, as well as funds for investments I have since I like to continuously add to the original capital I have previously deposited for investments. I can also include under security emergency funds. So anything that gives me that sense of security in case any future trouble happens and I would need large finances at that point. Under goals, these mainly target my savings goals, so it can be closely tied to the savings tracker that I showed you also in the previous video. So for those that have basis from previous videos, you may check the links in the description box below if you haven't seen those yet. Under lifestyle, I mainly place here the funds for my gift giving. So I usually have the capacity to purchase gifts for people, funds for eating out at restaurants, for travel, for sudden shopping, and generally things that don't happen often, but still do at times. So I have to be ready with a certain spending fund for it. Okay, so that's generally the idea of lifestyle. And finally, allowance. So allowance is technically not a category, but a standalone fund. And it is important for use in my next finance tracker. That's why the last 2 that I will show you, the last 2 trackers, are connected. So please watch out for that next one as well so I can shed more light on the allowance one. Okay? So in a nutshell, this has worked so well for me in allowing to more effectively and easily monitor the incoming funds I receive from my regular work, as well as actually from other sources. So the idea of using a system similar to envelope budgeting was important for me because simply saving or setting aside a certain amount of funds does not really offer us a solid footing for discipline with our finances. What I mean is, a lot of the time we end up touching those savings because we have no explicit purpose or role assigned to those amounts we set aside. So I hope this tracker will help you figure out what list of categories apply to you, what you need to adjust depending on the kind of paycheck you receive and how often you receive it. That's also important. And if you wish to make use of the same tracker, I highly encourage you to do so if it helps. Otherwise, you may opt to apply this with adjustments again based on your needs. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching up until this point. Please like and subscribe. Share this video and as well as my previous finance tracker videos if your friends might need it or anyone else you feel would be interested. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Please look forward to it. Thank you so much again for watching. Have a great day. Take care of your healths. And again, see you on the next one. Bye!